Hi, welcome to Horse Sense. My name is Larry and this is my partner Envy. And today we're going to talk about the differences in halters and lead ropes and also about lead safety. You can see she's currently wearing what we usually refer to as a nylon halter. This is used as very common. The other type of halter that can be used is called a rope halter. And I'm going to show you the rope halter because a lot of people don't know how to put them on properly. Now, it's really common to put the noseband on a horse first when you're haltering them up. I don't necessarily do this. I put this over their head and then work the noseband on. There's a couple different reasons for this. The first is if you've been chasing your horse around a pasture for 2 hours trying to get a hold of them, and you finally have that split second that you can get up next to them, if you put the noseband on first, they can easily back out of this and they're gone again, and you've just wasted all that time. The second thing is, what I always found myself doing is I get here and then I throw this over and invariably hit myself or my horse in the head. Not a good situation. So instead, I'm controlling it. Once I have my horse in this position, it's much less likely that they can get away from me, and then I just slip the noseband on. To properly tie a rope halter, you're going to put it through the loop. I always say form a D underneath it where the loop is, then run it through and down. You can adjust this as much as you want. And I can tighten this up so this is at her throat latch and retighten it. But always this piece is away from their face and downwards. A lot of people make the mistake of instead tying it up here. Well, there's a couple problems with that. One of which is you've got this big thing that's just waving around their eyes and their ears. They're not going to be too happy about that. You might get a little bit of a spook if you do that. The other problem is if they're tied up and the knot's up here, it's much more difficult to untie the knot than if it's down here. I happen to prefer rope halters. That's just my own preference. I don't particularly like having a lot of hardware on my horse's head, and these pieces of hardware are right up against where they're sensitive areas, and also if I have to correct her, this is a much more aggressive correction than the rope knot. The other problem is she's been famous for sitting back when she doesn't like the situation, and she can snap these clips in a heartbeat. It's much more difficult for her to get off using the rope. So that's the first part. Now we're going to talk about lead lines. Now I've got a lead line that we call a nylon lead line. I'm not really worried about her sitting back or making a fuss or running away from me. So I don't mind using a nylon lead line. If you do have a horse that you're either not too sure about, or they do have a tendency to try and run away and you've got to keep under control, I would recommend much more one of the cotton lead lines. They don't come in really pretty colors, and I understand that. However, it's much easier to grip hard, and the cotton has less tendency to give you a rope burn than the nylon ones. Always keep in mind that horses are very large, very strong, quick animals. I've seen some people where they're leading a horse and you have the extra piece that you don't want dragging on the ground. They'll pick it up and wrap it around their hand. The problem with this is that if the horse does sit back very suddenly, it's going to tighten on my hand, and now I can get dragged. I'm attached to that horse and I can't necessarily get off of it. I can't let go to get off. It's still, if you can see me pulling on this, it's still stuck. Instead, we fold the extra end of the lead line so that now all I have to do is drop the lead line and I'm free and clear of her. Let me switch back to the nylon halter. And we're going to discuss safety with the lead lines so your horse doesn't get injured. Now, one thing people will do is they're letting their horse graze. The horse's head is all the way down to the ground, and the lead line just gets very slack. And occasionally what can happen is they're going to step on it. If their head is all the way down and they step on that lead rope, if you try and ask them to come forward, they're going to lift their head up first. If the head's all the way down, there's no slack in it, this can make them startle them and make them upset. Instead, ask your horse to back off the lead line. They're less likely to pull their head up. They'll just simply take 1 or 2 steps back off of it. Now they're clear. And all you got to do is watch yourself and make sure you don't let it happen again. Another situation that I've seen fairly common is somebody ties a horse up to a fence, but rather than tying it at the appropriate length, which is about 1.5 or 2 feet, they tie it so there's this big loop hanging on the ground, and it's just tied by the end. They might be thinking, oh, this is nicer for my horse to give them all that room, or they're feeding them on the ground. The problem is it's attached, it's tied firm at one end. Your horse's face is at the ground. If she steps over, that lead line, it's still attached. Once she pulls her face back up, it's going to hook onto her leg. And now you have a horse that's fighting this length of rope, trying to get clear. They don't understand what's going on, and you've got to get in there and try and save them before they injure themselves. You can see it's already upsetting her very much, just having that on her, and she's not tied to anything. So if I pull on that a little bit, she's going to get very upset. She doesn't know what's happening. Then you've got to go in, try and untie it, and get it off of her. Good girl. With a horse that's flailing. Very dangerous situation. So when you do tie a horse up, make sure the lead line doesn't reach all the way to the ground. Is that it for today, Envy? I think that's it for today. We're at Becky's Hope Horse Rescue in Frisco, Texas. If you enjoyed this video, please go on our website, beckyshope.com. Press on the donate button. Even the smallest amount will certainly help us towards keeping these beautiful creatures alive. Thank you very much, and see you next time on Horse Sense.